At our anniversary dinner, my husband stood next to his mistress, smirking as he gave me divorce papers. "Finally, I'm finished with you, sweetheart," he mocked. "I'm moving on. Go find someone on your own miserable level." Laughter filled the room. I smiled, thanked everyone. And what happened next? Silenced their laughter. Instantly. Have you ever found a message that shattered your entire world, making your stomach drop into a black hole? I did. It wasn't just about my husband having an affair. It was about him systematically stealing every single thing we built together, meticulously planning my public humiliation, and leaving me with absolutely nothing. What would you do if your happy anniversary was actually a stage for your own destruction? The message wasn't even meant for me. It flashed across my husband Harrison's laptop screen as I was about to close it. An accidental pop-up from his mistress. "Cannot wait for Napa, baby." Finally, a whole weekend without hiding. I am so tired of pretending we are just colleagues when we are together at work events. I want to be able to touch you without worrying who is watching. My heart hammered against my ribs. A Napa baby? What the hell did that mean? And then Harrison's response came in, chillingly fast. "I know, sunshine. Just a few more weeks after the anniversary thing is handled. Everything changes. No more hiding. No more pretending. Just us building the life we have been planning." The anniversary thing. He was talking about our 5 years of marriage. He saw our entire life as a problem to be handled before moving on with his real life. With her. I scrolled through more messages, each one peeling back another layer of their sickeningly intimate world. Inside jokes, shared references to experiences I knew nothing about. Plans for a future that included him, but somehow completely excluded me. He called her sunshine. The best part of his day. His reason for getting up in the morning. Phrases I remembered him using with me during our courtship, before they became casualties of familiarity. But the truly devastating discovery wasn't emotional. It was financial. Buried in their email exchanges was a shared folder Harrison had given Laia access to, labeled Our Future, with an optimistic certainty that made my stomach churn. I clicked. Spreadsheet after spreadsheet loaded. Assets Harrison was moving. Bank statements showing systematic transfers from our joint accounts into new ones, bearing only his name. Investment accounts I had helped fund with my salary and business contacts, now being liquidated and converted into holdings I had no access to. He had been stealing from me, methodically, deliberately, for months. I found statements for accounts I didn't even know existed. Transfers of substantial amounts that should have required both our signatures, but apparently hadn't. Documentation showing Harrison had been using our home equity as collateral for business loans, without my knowledge or consent, putting our house at risk for investments that would benefit only him if our marriage ended. There was even a draft post-nuptial agreement buried in one of the subfolders. I opened it. The terms were so one-sided, they would have been comical if they hadn't represented the systematic theft of everything I had helped build. Harrison would keep the business, the investments, the retirement funds, most of our property. I would receive a small settlement that might cover 6 months of basic living expenses, if I was careful. He wasn't just planning to leave me. He was planning to leave me with absolutely nothing. Then I heard it. Movement upstairs. Footsteps crossing the bedroom floor. Harrison would be down in less than 2 minutes, expecting his Saturday morning routine to proceed exactly as it always did. My first instinct was pure, unadulterated rage. To scream. To throw his laptop across the kitchen and watch it shatter against the wall. To demand explanations, apologies, some acknowledgement of the total destruction he was wreaking. But something stopped me. A cold, hard survival instinct. Anger without strategy is just noise, I realized. Confrontation without preparation would give him time to hide more assets, delete more evidence, construct more lies that I would have no way to disprove. I pulled out my phone instead. My hands, miraculously, were steadier than they had any right to be. I started photographing everything on his screen, every calendar entry, every email, every financial document showing the systematic transfer of our shared assets. My hands moved with mechanical efficiency while my mind processed the complete annihilation of my marriage, of everything I believed my life to be. I created a secure cloud storage account under a pseudonym, using my work email and a password he'd never guess. Uploaded every single photograph while listening to him move around upstairs. Then, I closed his laptop exactly as I'd found it. Notifications still visible on the screen, and I returned to making coffee as if the previous 10 minutes hadn't just dismantled my entire understanding of my life. Harrison came downstairs 5 minutes later, hair damp from the shower, gym clothes bundled in his arms. He was humming something under his breath, looking relaxed and satisfied in a way I hadn't seen in months. "Good workout?" I asked, my voice remarkably normal, considering. "Great," he said, leaning in to kiss my forehead with the same casual affection you might show a moderately appreciated household pet. "Sorry, I'm running late though. Can you wrap those eggs to go?" I wrapped his breakfast in foil and handed it to him along with a travel mug of coffee. I watched him grab his laptop without noticing a thing. I waved as he headed out for another Saturday at the office, which probably involved Lyra more than actual work. The door closed behind him. His car started in the driveway. I stood alone in our kitchen, with cold coffee and the weight of knowledge I could not unknow. Then I sat down at our kitchen table, opened my own laptop, and began researching divorce attorneys who specialized in financial fraud. The search led me to Catherine Ross. Her name kept appearing in online reviews for complex divorce cases involving hidden assets. Catherine recovered money my ex-husband swore no longer existed and made him pay for trying to hide it. That review caught my attention. I called her office Monday morning from my car, parked 3 blocks from my workplace. I couldn't risk anyone overhearing. "I need a consultation about divorce involving financial fraud," I said, keeping my voice steady, despite how strange the words felt. "How soon can you come in?" The receptionist asked without hesitation. "As soon as possible. Tomorrow afternoon at 2. Bring any documentation you have. Bank statements, emails, photographs, anything that supports what you're telling me." Tuesday afternoon, I walked into a steel and glass building downtown that screamed expensive legal expertise. Catherine's office was on the 14th floor. When I stepped into her reception area, decorated in calming neutrals, I felt simultaneously out of place and exactly where I needed to be. Catherine Ross was in her mid-40s, impeccably dressed. Her handshake was firm, her office intimidatingly organized. She gestured for me to sit, and I noticed she already had a notepad and recording device pulled up. "Tell me everything," she said simply. I showed her the screenshots, walked her through the calendar entries and emails, explained the financial documents. 40 minutes passed. Catherine had filled several pages with notes. "Your husband," she said, looking up with an expression both sympathetic and predatory, "is both dishonest and sloppy. That combination will be his downfall." She drilled into details for another 30 minutes, then leaned back. Over the next 2 weeks, Catherine assembled a team that operated with military precision. A forensic accountant, Marcus, began tracing Harrison's financial movements, uncovering layers of hidden accounts. A private investigator started documenting Harrison and Lyra's movements. A paralegal, Sophie, organized everything into case files that grew thicker with each visit. The team uncovered a vintage watch collection Harrison had claimed he sold 3 years ago. It was worth $40,000, sitting in climate-controlled storage. They found credit card charges at luxury hotels, jewelry purchases, spa treatments, all on our joint account. I had been helping finance Harrison's romantic getaways without knowing they existed. The private investigator captured video footage of Harrison and Leia holding hands, entering hotels in the middle of the afternoon, emerging hours later with body language that left little doubt. 3 weeks into building her case, Catherine called me back. "He is planning something public," she said, her expression serious. The expensive venue, the guest list heavy with business associates. "This isn't about celebrating your marriage. This is theater." She explained that men like Harrison didn't just want to leave their wives. They wanted to be seen leaving, to be witnessed making what they considered an upgrade. "The anniversary party is not a celebration," Catherine continued. "It is a stage. He is going to do something there, and we need to be ready with a response that is equally public and far more devastating." It made terrible sense. This wasn't about honoring our marriage. It was about positioning himself as the successful man, finally free from the burden of a wife he had outgrown. Catherine drafted legal documents that could be filed immediately. She prepared evidence packages, financial fraud, marital asset dissipation, documentation of infidelity. "When he makes his move," she said, "we respond immediately, publicly, and with evidence he cannot dispute. He wants theater. We will give him theater, but our version ends very differently than the script he has written." The hardest part was going home every evening and pretending I knew nothing, maintaining the facade of the oblivious wife, while living with someone who was systematically destroying everything we had supposedly built together. Every morning I made coffee and asked about his day with genuine-sounding interest. Every evening, I prepared dinners he barely touched, scrolling through his phone, probably texting Leia. At work functions, where Leia was sometimes present, I watched them maintain a careful professional distance, while their eyes communicated everything their words couldn't say in public. 2 weeks before the anniversary party at a charity gala, I found myself standing near the bar at the same time as Leia. She smiled at me with what appeared to be genuine friendliness. "You must be so proud of Harrison," she said, gesturing toward him. "He has built something really impressive." "We built it together," I replied, keeping my voice pleasant, while a quiet rage burned beneath my composure. "I was there from the beginning. Made a lot of it possible, actually." "Of course," Leia said, though her expression suggested she hadn't really considered my role beyond the basic fact of my existence. It must be nice being married to someone so ambitious. I looked at this woman who had been sleeping with my husband for 14 months, who had received romantic getaways, funded by my salary, who apparently believed she had found something special, worth stealing. "It has been educational," I said, then excused myself before I said something that would reveal just how much I actually knew. The performance required constant vigilance. I complimented his new clothes, admired his improved physique, became the perfect oblivious wife Harrison needed me to be. The anniversary party was now only 1 week away. Harrison was coming home earlier, almost jovial, like someone about to execute a plan he believed would work perfectly. He had no idea I was executing a plan of my own. The final week moved with the strange quality of time that feels both too fast and impossibly slow. Each day brought me closer to the confrontation, yet stretched out in a way that made every interaction with Harrison feel like exhausting performance art. Tuesday evening, Harrison came home at 6, a startling rarity. "Thought I would actually have dinner at home tonight," he said, pouring himself a bourbon. We ate in silence. Then he cleared his throat. "This is going to be a special night on Sunday," he said, watching me. "Really special. I invited everyone important. Your sister is coming, right?" "Emma will be there," I confirmed, keeping my voice neutral. "Good. That's good." He swirled his bourbon. "I want everyone there. I want them to see where we are, where things are going." His phrasing was deliberately vague. I played along. It was thoughtful of you to plan something, I said, the lie tasting bitter. Even as the words came out smooth and genuine, Harrison looked at me, an expression I couldn't quite read. Guilt, anticipation, perhaps a last flicker of doubt, quickly replaced by his confident mask. He went to bed early. I stayed up late on the phone with Emma, who had become my lifeline. I feel like I'm holding my breath underwater, I admitted, just waiting to surface, but not sure I'll make it. You're stronger than I would be, Emma said. I would have confronted him weeks ago, probably would have thrown his laptop through a window. I laughed. Catherine says the key is patience. Let him think he has control, so we can take it away completely when it matters most. Thursday afternoon, Catherine called an emergency meeting. Marcus found something significant, she said. I left work early. Marcus, the forensic accountant, and Rebecca Chin, a tax attorney, were there. Harrison's business partner has been keeping documentation of questionable financial practices, Marcus explained. Harrison has been inflating property appraisals to secure larger loans, then pocketing the difference. It's systematic fraud that extends beyond your marriage. Rebecca added, he's also been underreporting income from property sales, significant enough to trigger a federal investigation. This wasn't just about divorce anymore. This was about potential criminal charges, Catherine explained. When you expose what he has done to you personally, we will also be exposing practices that could result in criminal charges. Joel, the business partner, was willing to testify. Catherine had already drafted a formal complaint for the IRS, but we were holding off. Why wait? I asked. Because timing matters, Catherine said. We need him to proceed with whatever he has orchestrated for Sunday evening. We need him confident and exposed. Then we hit him with everything at once. Friday afternoon, I picked up the emerald dress I'd ordered. The silk was beautiful, the cut flattering. My phone buzzed with a text from Harrison. Wear something nice tomorrow. I want you to look good for our guests. I showed it to Emma. He's unbelievable, she exclaimed. He's going to publicly divorce you, and he wants you to dress up for it. That's exactly what I need, I said, surprising myself with my calm. His arrogance is what makes this work. He's so confident I will comply that he can't imagine I might have plans of my own. That evening, I sat alone, going through the evidence one last time. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Tomorrow's going to be perfect. Finally, I can stop hiding. It was meant for Harrison. Leah had somehow confused my number with his. I forwarded the screenshot to Catherine. Her response, perfect. Keep that. We can use it. Saturday evening arrived with the quality of a Last Supper. Harrison came home early, poured bourbon for both of us. I've been thinking about us, he said. Tomorrow is going to mark a new chapter. Things have been difficult, I know, but change can be good. His words were deliberately vague, constructed to mean anything. I played along. Change can be good, I agreed. Tomorrow will certainly be memorable. Every word he spoke was theatre. Every response I gave was performance. Sunday. I woke before dawn. The irony wasn't lost on me. This would be the last morning we woke up in the same house. I spent the day in careful preparation. The emerald dress, the hair appointment, every detail mattered. Harrison spent most of the day at his office, returning at 4 to shower and change. At 6:30, I stood outside Meridian Hall alone. Emma had offered to come with me, but I needed this moment to myself. I needed to walk through those doors on my own terms. The building was stunning, glass and steel reflecting sunset colors. Harrison had spared no expense. Ironic, considering the expense came from accounts that legally belonged to both of us. I checked my phone. Catherine had texted. She was inside, positioned as my yoga friend. Marcus, the PI, was parked nearby. Everything was in place. I took a deep breath that did nothing to settle the adrenaline coursing through me. Smoothed the emerald silk of my dress. and checked my reflection. A woman far more composed than she felt. Then I walked through the entrance. Head high, expression carefully neutral. Every inch the devoted wife, completely unaware that her marriage was about to end in front of 40 witnesses. The first thing I noticed was Leia. She stood beside Harrison, greeting guests like this was her party. The audacity was breathtaking. She wore red, a dress that probably cost what I earned in 2 months. Flawless makeup, camera ready. She looked like success, like youth, like everything I apparently wasn't in Harrison's estimation. Harrison saw me. His expression flickered. Surprise, guilt, discomfort. "Gemma," he said, his voice foreign. "You look beautiful." "Thank you," I replied with perfect politeness. "The venue is stunning. You did an excellent job with the planning." I turned to Leia and extended my hand. "I don't believe we've been formally introduced. I'm Gemma." She took my hand with a smile that contained sympathy, actual pity. "Leia Vaughn, it's lovely to finally meet you properly." Properly, as if we hadn't been circling each other for a year. "Lovely to meet you as well," I said, releasing her hand and moving past them, before either could read anything in my expression. Beyond polite friendliness, the room filled. Harrison's business associates, mutual friends. Emma was positioned near the head table, her phone resting casually beside her water glass. Catherine stood near the bar. Everything was in place. Dinner began. I was seated at one end of a long table, Harrison at the other, Leia beside him, touching his arm repeatedly. Small gestures of proprietary familiarity that made several guests visibly uncomfortable. People noticed. My entire focus was on Harrison, on waiting for the performance, on preparing myself to execute Catherine's plan. Between the 4th and 5th courses, I saw Emma pull out her phone, positioning it on the table, recording mode activated. Catherine did the same, both phones capturing different angles. Then Harrison stood. The room went silent. "Thank you all for celebrating this special evening with us," he began, his voice carrying with practiced confidence. 5 years ago, I made a commitment. Tonight, I want to acknowledge that commitment and where it has brought me. I watched his face, satisfaction, the confidence of someone who believed he was finally taking control of his life, freeing himself from a burden he had outgrown. "Marriage teaches you what you really want," he continued, looking directly at me across the length of the table. "What you actually need, what you are willing to settle for, versus what you deserve." Several guests shifted uncomfortably. The atmosphere was changing. Gemma has been exactly what I expected when we married. Supportive, reliable, present. He made those qualities sound like criticism, like failures disguised as compliments. But I have grown beyond what I was 5 years ago. My business has expanded. My vision has evolved. And I have found someone who matches where I am now, not where I was then. Leia was looking at him with undisguised adoration. The room was completely silent, except for soft classical music. Harrison reached into his jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. He walked the entire length of the table with theatrical precision and placed it directly in front of me. "Divorce papers," he announced with a satisfaction that made several guests audibly gasp. "Already filed, already processed. I'm done with you, sweetheart. Finally, completely done. I am upgrading now. So, go find someone from your own low level." Leia laughed first, a bright sound that seemed to give permission for others to join. Several of Harrison's business associates offered nervous laughter. Emma looked ready to physically attack my husband. Catherine had gone absolutely still, her expression focused with laser intensity. I looked at the envelope, at Harrison's face, glowing with triumph, at Leia, standing beside him like a prize he had just won. Then I smiled. Not a sad smile, not a broken smile, but something genuine. From a place of calm certainty I hadn't accessed in months. The laughter in the room faltered. Harrison's expression flickered with confusion. This was not the script he had written. I was supposed to cry, to beg, to make a scene. I picked up the manila envelope, slowly, deliberately, opened it with hands that were steadier than they had any right to be. The divorce papers inside were exactly as expected. I read through the first page, then looked up at Harrison. "Thank you," I said quietly, my voice carrying perfectly in the silence. "Truly, thank you for this gift." Harrison's confidence wavered visibly. This was not the response he had anticipated. I stood, smoothed the emerald silk of my dress, and reached into my clutch. My phone emerged. "Since we are sharing important documents tonight," I said, my voice steady, "I have something too, a little anniversary surprise of my own." I had arranged access to the venue's audiovisual system that afternoon, claiming I wanted to prepare a sentimental photo montage for Harrison. My phone connected instantly. The large screens flickered to life. What appeared was not a sentimental photo montage. It was Catherine's carefully edited video compilation, opening with simple text, Harrison did, while Gemma planned their anniversary. The soundtrack was dramatic, cold, something classical that made the entire production feel like a documentary. Then came the photographs from Marcus's surveillance. Harrison and Leia entering hotel rooms in the middle of the afternoon. Timestamps visible, dates and times that corresponded exactly with hours Harrison had told me he was touring properties or meeting investors. Harrison and Leia at expensive restaurants, his hand on hers, body language unmistakably intimate, video footage of them leaving his exclusive gym together, getting into her car, driving to her apartment. Text message screenshots appeared next, conversations where Leia called him my future, and Harrison responded with promises about their life once he handled the Gemma situation. The footage was damning. It showed a relationship conducted in public, suggesting either remarkable arrogance or complete confidence that I would never discover the truth. The room was absolutely silent. Every guest was forced to watch. Harrison's face had gone from triumph to shock to something approaching horror. He was watching his private relationship, exposed in front of everyone he had invited to witness my humiliation. The irony was not lost on me. Leia had gone pale, one hand pressed to her mouth as though she might be sick. But the infidelity evidence was only the opening act. The video transitioned smoothly to financial documents, bank statements showing Harrison's systematic transfer of assets, spreadsheets detailing the liquidation of investments I had helped fund, credit card charges for hotels, dinners, jewelry, all on our shared accounts. The screens displayed documentation of the storage unit containing his vintage watch collection, the hidden accounts using our home equity, the draft post-nuptial agreement. So one-sided, it demonstrated either legal incompetence or complete contempt. Several of Harrison's business associates were leaning forward now, reading the financial documents with the attention of people who understood exactly what they were seeing. Then came the final piece, a letter from the Internal Revenue Service. Official letterhead, signatures from federal officials Catherine had contacted through her network. The letter outlined an investigation into Harrison's company for tax fraud related to unreported income from property sales, income he had concealed, not just from me, but from federal authorities. The document detailed potential charges that could result in significant fines and possible criminal prosecution. 40 guests sat in absolute silence, watching a successful man's reputation disintegrate in real time, watching private financial crimes become public record, watching what they thought was a simple divorce announcement transform into evidence of systematic betrayal and fraud that extended far beyond marital misconduct. When the screens finally went dark, the silence was total, broken only by the sound of someone crying, "Liar!" Her mascara was running in dark streams. Her face crumpled as she understood that her career and reputation had just been demolished along with Harrison's. I walked the length of the table slowly, deliberately, holding a second set of papers. Harrison stood frozen, unable to speak or move. His face had gone from its earlier flush of triumph to a pale shade that suggested genuine shock. "You wanted to upgrade," I said, looking directly at him. My voice was quiet, but it carried in the silence. "But you forgot that intelligence isn't measured by age or appearance. It is measured by strategy." I placed the papers in his hands with the same casual cruelty he had shown me minutes earlier. "These are from Catherine Ross, my attorney," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You will recognize some of the language, because it is the same language from those divorce papers you just gave me. Except, in my version, you don't get the house you tried to transfer into your name alone using forged documents. You don't get the investment accounts you attempted to hide. You don't get anything beyond exactly 50% of our legitimately shared assets. And you will be returning every cent you stole with interest." Catherine stood from her position, professional and terrifying. "The IRS documents are legitimate," she announced. "I contacted them personally regarding Mr. Whitmore's tax irregularities. They were very interested in the information Mrs. Whitmore provided about unreported income and property valuation fraud." Harrison's mouth opened. No words emerged. He looked like someone drowning. Several of his business associates were already pulling out their phones, typing rapidly, probably calculating how quickly they could distance themselves from someone under federal investigation. I turned to Leah, still crying beside Harrison. "Your employer received an interesting package this afternoon," I said, my voice carrying the same quiet authority. Video evidence of an employee engaging in an affair, using company resources to facilitate that relationship. Company hotels for personal use. Company expense accounts for romantic dinners. I believe they call that misappropriation of corporate assets. Leah made a sound somewhere between a sob and a gasp. Her career, like Harrison's reputation, was collapsing. "Thank you all for witnessing this," I said to the 40 guests, many now recording the scene on their phones. "Your presence makes everything documented public and very permanent." I picked up my clutch, nodded to Emma and Catherine, who stood immediately to join me. Then I walked out of Meridian Hall, with my head high and my dignity intact, leaving behind 40 stunned guests, a weeping mistress, and a husband whose life I had just systematically demolished, using nothing more than patience, evidence, and the strategic application of truth. The glass doors closed behind us with a soft hiss that felt final. The evening air was cool against my face. I was shaking slightly now that the performance was over. Emma linked her arm through mine. Catherine was already on her phone. "That was the most incredible thing I have ever witnessed," Emma said once we reached her car. "Gemma, that was perfect. Absolutely perfect." I leaned against her car and let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for 3 months. "I need to not go home tonight." "You're staying with me," Emma said immediately. "I already made up the guest room because I figured you wouldn't want to go back there tonight." Catherine looked up from her phone. "He will try to contact you," she said, matter-of-factly. "Probably within the hour. Angry first, then pleading. Do not respond to anything. All communication goes through me now." "I understand," I said. "Let him spiral. Let him panic. Let his attorneys deal with the mess he created, while we proceed with documenting and recovering every asset he tried to hide." We drove to Emma's apartment. My phone started buzzing around 9. Text messages from numbers I didn't recognize. Notifications from social media. Emma's phone was doing the same thing. "Gemma," Emma said slowly, staring at her screen. "The video is already online. Someone had uploaded footage from the dinner to multiple platforms. The view count was climbing. hundreds becoming thousands. How many people were recording? I asked. At least a dozen, Emma replied. Everyone had their phones out once your video started playing. We watched in real time as the anniversary dinner became viral content. The comment sections filled with responses that ranged from supportive to celebratory. People were praising my strategic patience, mocking Harrison's arrogance, celebrating what they called the most satisfying public revenge. By midnight, the number had reached several million across different platforms. My face was being screenshotted and turned into reaction images. Someone had created a meme using the moment I thanked Harrison for the divorce papers, captioning it with text about strategic planning and patience. I turned off my phone around 1 a.m. Emma did the same. Try to sleep, she said. Tomorrow is going to be intense. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Emma was making coffee when I emerged. Catherine called, she said. Wants to talk to you. I called Catherine back. 3 of Harrison's major investors pulled funding overnight. Catherine said, without preamble. Joel Preston released a public statement distancing himself from Harrison's conduct. 2 property development deals fell through, and Laia was terminated from her position, effective immediately. That last piece of information hit differently. Laia had made choices that destroyed her career, but there was something sobering about how quickly professional consequences manifested once personal misconduct became public. What about Harrison? I asked. Has he tried to contact you? His attorney called 4 times last night and twice this morning. They want to settle immediately. They are offering terms that are increasingly desperate. Each offer is worse for him than the previous one, because they understand his position is deteriorating rapidly. What do you recommend? I asked. Reject everything until we have completed comprehensive asset valuation. The longer we wait, the weaker his position becomes. His business is collapsing. His reputation is destroyed. Federal investigators are beginning their inquiry. He has no leverage. How much worse can they get? I asked. If the property valuation fraud is as extensive as Joel's documentation suggests, Catherine said, Harrison could face significant fines and potentially prison time. When I hung up, Emma was reading something on her laptop. News websites are covering this, she said. Not just gossip sites. Actual news outlets are writing about the viral video. They're calling it a case study in strategic response to betrayal. My phone, which I'd turned back on, was filled with missed calls and messages. 3 were from Harrison. The first was angry, demanding to know how I could destroy him. The second was pleading, asking me to call him like reasonable adults. The third was threatening, suggesting I would regret making his personal life public. I showed them to Emma. Don't respond, she said firmly. Catherine was right. Let him spiral. I deleted the messages without replying. Whatever Harrison was experiencing now was consequence, not injustice. By evening, the viral video had been viewed tens of millions of times. My face was recognizable to strangers. I sat on Emma's couch with a glass of wine I wasn't drinking and realized that despite everything, the viral attention, the legal battles ahead, the complete destruction of the life I had been living, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 18 months. Relief. That relief settled over me. Complicated, yes, but profound. The divorce proceedings began formally the following week. Catherine filed comprehensive responses, asserting claims to every marital asset. The process was methodical, exhausting. Harrison's attorney tried multiple approaches to expedite settlement, each offer more desperate than the last. Catherine rejected every proposal. The proceedings took 3 months. Judge Margaret Chin, known for her no-nonsense adjudication, presided. Harrison's attorney argued the viral video had created prejudice. Judge Chin shut down that argument with a single sentence. Your client damaged his own reputation through systematic fraud and public cruelty. Mrs. Whitmore simply documented the truth. The settlement was everything Catherine had promised and more. The house remained mine. Investment accounts were divided equally, based on their actual value. Every cent Harrison had transferred to his personal accounts came back with interest. The vintage watch collection was sold at auction, the proceeds contributing to my settlement, a particularly satisfying detail. Catherine even recovered compensation for money Harrison had spent on Lyra. Hotel rooms, romantic dinners, jewelry, all classified as dissipation of marital assets. He effectively paid twice for the relationship that destroyed our marriage. The final settlement was substantial enough that I could pay off the mortgage and still have significant savings. Financial security I hadn't experienced in years. But I didn't keep the house. It held too many memories. Instead, I sold it and used the proceeds to move into a penthouse apartment in the Arts District downtown, a space that felt like liberation made physical. 8 months after the anniversary dinner, I stood in my new apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. Meridian Hall was visible in the distance. My career had transformed. The marketing firm promoted me to creative director. My boss said, someone capable of orchestrating such comprehensive strategic communication clearly possessed valuable professional skills. A 40% salary increase. For the first time in years, I was earning money that was unambiguously mine, unconnected to Harrison's aspirations or criticisms. I adopted a cat named Justice. Emma suggested it, an orange, imperious creature, entirely uninterested in performing emotional labor. Catherine became more than my attorney. She became a friend. She introduced me to a support group, women with similar stories. We shared experiences and strategies, building community based on survival and growth. My story wasn't unique, though the viral documentation of it had been unusual. 9 months after the anniversary dinner, Catherine called with news that extended Harrison's consequences far beyond divorce. Joel Preston had contacted federal investigators with additional evidence about financial crimes that reached back years before our marriage. Harrison had been falsifying property valuations systematically. Federal investigators launched a comprehensive examination of his entire business operation. What they uncovered resulted in criminal charges, 14 counts of wire fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy. The scope of his illegal activity was staggering. I was questioned extensively. They cleared me quickly. Once they understood, I had been as deceived about his business practices as I had been about his personal conduct. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I attended several days of testimony. Harrison was convicted on 11 of the 14 counts. At sentencing, Judge William Torres imposed 6 years in federal prison, followed by supervised release and restitution requirements that would likely occupy the remainder of Harrison's life. I attended the sentencing hearing. Harrison stood behind the defense table, wearing a suit that no longer fit. When Judge Torres asked if he wanted to make a statement, Harrison looked directly at me for the first time since his arrest. I destroyed everything good in my life because I confused success with happiness and ambition with fulfillment, he said. My wife deserved better. She was better. And I was too arrogant to recognize that until it was too late. The words might have meant something years earlier. Now, they were just insufficient acknowledgement, delivered far too late. I felt nothing watching him be led away. Not satisfaction, not vindication, not even the closure people talk about. Just a profound sense of release from a narrative I was finally finished living. That evening, I stood in my apartment with Justice, curled on the sofa, harbor lights reflecting off the dark water. I understood something fundamental that had taken months to grasp. Revenge had never been about destroying Harrison. It was about refusing to be destroyed by him, about documentation rather than confrontation, strategy rather than emotion, patience rather than impulse. Harrison had wanted to upgrade. What he actually did was trade a partnership for a performance. Someone who knew him completely, for someone who knew only the version he performed for public consumption. The real upgrade had been mine, from a wife defined by marriage to a woman defined by choices. From someone who absorbed criticism about inadequacy to someone who recognized that inadequacy belonged to the person delivering judgment rather than receiving it. The anniversary dinner video still circulates occasionally, resurfacing whenever someone compiles examples of public accountability or strategic response to betrayal. I no longer feel exposed by it. Instead, it has become a permanent reminder that quiet people are not weak people. They are simply waiting for the right moment to demonstrate exactly how dangerous underestimation can be. Call to action. If this story of calculated justice and strategic revenge kept you captivated from beginning to end, show your support by hitting that like button right now. My favorite moment was when I calmly thanked Harrison for the divorce papers before revealing the comprehensive evidence that would destroy everything he had built. What was your most satisfying moment in this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't miss more powerful stories of resilience, justice, and triumph over betrayal. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified the instant we upload new content.